Hey everybody, before I get started, I just want to mention a couple of ways that you can engage with me on a more personal level. I have a few avenues set up and I keep focusing on one, and I figured why don't I make a short little video talking about all of them real quick before we get into these episodes. So first thing, Patreon. There's a link in the episode description, in every episode description to the Patreon, as well as a video on the feed called Major Announcement that has all the details of what each tier offers and how much they cost. I implore you to check that out. I offer a lot of cool shit for my patrons. Second thing, the Discord channel. There's also a Discord link in the episode description and in every episode description. I have multiple channels set up there for each show that I'm covering, and it's a great way to just engage with me. I have a channel set up for MMA talk as well. I'm a big MMA fan, so if you're an MMA fan, you can check that out as well. There's a link to the Discord in the episode description. And then lastly, the Facebook and Twitter. Social media. Follow me on there. I post news on there. When I say news, I mean like, hey, I'm stopping covering this show. Hey, I'm starting covering this show. Let me know what you think about this. I do live watches of things on Facebook where like I'll check in and say I'm watching so-and-so show, and then I'll like live comment while I'm watching it, and that'll be cool if maybe you watch that show too and you want to watch along with me, or you're watching it later and you will see my thoughts, which are usually pretty entertaining because I'm usually pretty high when I'm writing them. So check out all those links in each episode description, and let's talk about this episode. Peace.
One mic, one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. One mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, and today I'm here to talk about, in a non-spoilery way, the entire season of Amazon Prime's I'm a Virgo. Probably going to be the only season as well, gives big limited series vibes, but I mean, theoretically, you could make multiple seasons of this. I think it'd be a terrible idea, but it's possible. But this is going to be one of the few videos where I'm going to talk about an entire season of a show in non-spoilery fashion, rather than my usual episode-by-episode deep dives. But this was one that I actually didn't plan on watching or covering, so I started watching it and I wasn't taking notes. I was just chilling. I kind of even had some concerns at the beginning, which I'm going to get into a little bit later, but I ended up liking this, and I'm just like, man, it would be a fucking shame that I don't have any coverage of this on my channel at all. That's the same thing that motivated me to do the video for The Bear Season 1 after I watched that. I'm not saying this is The Bear, but that's one of the things that motivated me. I'm like, man, I need to have my thoughts out in the ether about this show. And that's how I felt about this one. So let's talk about this show. Like I said, non-spoilers. This one's not going to be too long. It's not going to be a huge deep dive. I want to let you guys know what the show is about, and just give you kind of like a basic idea of what I thought about it. So the show is made by Boots Riley. Boots Riley made Sorry to Bother You, which was a movie starring Lakeith Stanfield and Tessa Thompson that came out. I don't know, I want to say circa 2017, 2018, that range. I wasn't really that into it. I was really looking forward to it. I think it came out right after Get Out. So Lakeith Stanfield was like really hot in the streets at that time. And I rushed to see it. I think I probably saw it in theaters. And I don't know, I wasn't a big fan of it, but this came along. I thought it looked like an interesting concept. It was 7 episodes on Amazon Prime Video, about 30 minutes, give or take a piece. So I'm like, okay, it's kind of a quick watch. It's an interesting concept, at least on the surface. I see that there's a giant fucking black guy in it. What's this about? So just very surface level, like, okay, I'm a little intrigued here. And then I noticed that it stars Jerome in the lead role, the character's named Cootie, and a lot of us were likely introduced to Jerome in the incredible film Moonlight. He was also one of the leads in When They See Us, which was another incredible. When They See Us was that was a TV show about about the Central Park Five. That was the When They See Us. I get it confused with the movie that had Jeremy Strong in it, Trial of Chicago something. I get the two things confused, but he was great in that. It was great. So this is the kind of guy who you can tell he picks the right roles. He doesn't just pick. He's not just good in the things that he's in, but he doesn't just be like, yeah, I'm gonna be in fucking Superhero Dogs 3 on Tubi. Like, no, he chooses like cool shit to do. So that was another good sign that this show is probably worth checking out, because Jerome doesn't choose garbage to be in. It also co-stars Walton Goggins as a character called Hero, He plays a superhero who, along with along with capitalism, is the central antagonist on this show. I've seen Walton Goggins in probably 8 million different things, and I don't think it's possible for him to be anything less than fucking awesome. In anything that he does, unless he's being dragged down by that horrifically shitty second Ant-Man movie. But anyway, a lot of the rest of the cast you probably haven't seen in too many things. I think like I recognize faces here or there, but it was kind of like one of the things like, does this person look like somebody I know, or are they somebody that I know? And if I know them, have I seen them in a lot of things? I might have seen this person in one thing. A lot of people you guys probably aren't going to recognize, especially if I didn't recognize them. But Mike Epps is in this as well. He does a really good job in the role of Cootie's father. Mike Epps has been popping up and stuff lately in more serious roles, but still kind of bringing a level of comedy to them that's been really good for him. I feel like Mike Epps, in doing these like partially dramatic, partially comedic roles, where it's a serious role, but he brings some humor into it. He's been shockingly good at that, like way better than I would have expected. But he's doing great with that in this show. And then Juliette Lewis, while we don't actually see her, she's brought in for a voice role that you'll only recognize if you look it up online like I did. But that's actually good. The voice role or the world in which her role exists is something I'm going to talk about in a little bit. But the central concept of the show, like I mentioned multiple times, it follows the adventures of a 13-foot tall black man. That's Cootie, Jerome's character. He spent the entirety of his life hidden, but at the start of the show, I think he's turning 18, and he's starting to kind of step out into the world on his own. And as the show opens, it kind of begins to establish, it just does. It establishes the world that we're going to be in. And it's a surrealistic world here. And when you're dealing with surrealism in television or film anyway, I'm of the opinion that you kind of want to right away establish the level of surrealism that your viewer is going to be dealing with. For example, is there going to be like a lot of really weird and implausible shit, but it's still somehow gonna make sense? To me, that's kind of like your standard level of surrealism, and that's what this show is. And it takes those first, like I said, about 2 full episodes to kind of establish that level of surrealism. Like, okay, this is what we're dealing with. You know, we're in a world with a 13-foot tall black guy. What's it like to navigate life at that size, at that age? How are people going to see him and treat him? What's it like to fuck? Like, that's these are the questions that this show felt needed to be answered. And this world also has a superhero, like I said, played by Walton Goggins, who, rather than move from floor to floor within his building, he stays in one place and makes the building move around him. That's the kind of world that this show exists in. Cootie's love interest, she even has a power. She's really fast, and she abides by the Flash's rule of, like, since I'm so fast, normal life for all of you guys feels like a fucking slug crawling to me. Like the Flash has been known to say that, and I like that because it added a little bit of texture, I guess, to this character. Like, now I understand that. I like knowing things like that. Like, when I'm seeing this character behaving just like everybody else in this world, or in my world even, that for that character it feels like slow motion. Like, I don't know, that's just like cool, a cool bit of context to add to the show. Now, at the end of the day, it wasn't really necessary, but that's what world building is, right? Like, a lot of times it is necessary, but in that case, it's more just kind of like, say if you have a beautiful painting, right, and it's a portrait of some person, and it has magnificent detail, and it looks amazing, and then you're like, you know what, it would add a little bit more if I just added this person's crow's feet or their freckles, and it's a detail that it doesn't make the painting less to not have it, but you add it, and it's like, just fucking right. That's what adding in how she interprets life, this is what life is like for me, even though we don't see it, learning that about her, that's the kind of extra shit that goes into world building that really makes things work for me. So like I said, it's implausible, but it makes sense. So we take the first 2 episodes to establish that world, and in the 3rd episode, an event takes place, and it's sort of it's the spark that drives the story from that point on. So by the end of episode 3, now I know what the show's going to be about, and they spend the final 4 episodes continuing to move in that direction. It's also at that point that the show becomes interesting. And You're probably thinking like, well, all the shit you just said about the world building, that sounded pretty fucking interesting to me. But at that time, I didn't know if any of that shit was gonna pay off or matter. So what I mean is, I didn't know if I was watching weird shit for the sake of weird shit or not. Like, I was concerned that the show was wasting an opportunity to tell a unique and compelling story about a massive fucking justifiably terrifying black man in favor of just doing weird shit just to do it. That's always a concern of mine because people in general seem to think that, like, if they're doing something weird or different or unique, that automatically makes it better. Like, people be like, oh, I know fashion because I dress like a fucking weirdo. Like, no, you look like a fool. It doesn't make you high fashion or elite or sophisticated to wear a fucking, I don't know, a condom as a hat. Like whatever the fuck people be doing, right? So I'm concerned. I was concerned about the show because I'm like, I don't know if this is shit that this guy is doing, Boots Riley, because he thinks doing weird shit makes him a really sophisticated auteur, or if he actually has something he wants to fucking talk about. So all that weird shit that I was talking about at the beginning, at the time, I'm kind of like, okay, I see this is happening, but what difference does it fucking make? But like I said in that third episode, events take place, and the show takes that world it's built, and it uses that world to tell a pretty interesting story about capitalism, believe it or not. And like if I told you like, hey, there's a show on Amazon that uses a 13-foot tall black man and Walton Goggins playing a superhero to tell a compelling story about capitalism, you probably give me a swift kick in the balls, and I deserve it because that's a ridiculous fucking statement. But I'm telling you guys, there's a show on Amazon that uses a 13-foot tall black man and Walton Goggins playing a superhero to tell a pretty compelling story about capitalism. Trust me. Like, there's a really good scene late in the season where one of Cootie's friends does this kind of like capitalism for dummies monologue. And, you know, that was pretty cool. Just like Cootie's love interest has a superpower, this character's superpower is almost like, is essentially like explaining complicated things in a relatable and understandable way. Like that, that's Cootie's friend's superpower. But that scene is there to help the audience understand the motive for the mission heading into the finale as well. So it serves its purpose, not just this is a creative and visually arresting thing to look at, but it also sets the stakes for the finale as well. So like, again, the show does a lot of smart stuff. Speaking of which, about being visually arresting, there are a ton of absolutely beautiful shots in this show as well. Like, shout out to like the cinematographer and the gaffer on this show, because like a lot of these shots relied on some pretty cool fucking lighting and they knocked them out. They did a lot of great shit with like car headlights, like a spotlight on Walton Goggins' character's uniform. They did some really cool shit with lighting. I did have a couple issues though. Like, I thought the sound, particularly for dialogue, was pretty low at times. Like, I just felt like it needed to be a little bit louder. The subtitles, I really relied on them with this show. There's a character on here whose speech is so like deep, gruff, quiet, but also kind of slurred that it's like virtually impossible to understand what he's saying without having the subtitles on. So like that was a little bit of a, I don't really like that. You guys know, anytime there's something I'm skittish on, I'm just like, like that weird little sound. That lets you guys know that it's something that just kind of, it affected me, and I felt a little bit of a way, but not enough to where I'm just like, yo, they fucked this thing up. So yeah, the sound made me but not too bad. And like I mentioned with Juliette Lewis's character earlier, I said Juliette Lewis has a character that I had to look it up to see who it was, and I felt like her character's aspect of the show isn't necessarily a flaw, but something that I kind of question. So there's a cartoon within the show that just kind of watching the show and not trying to analyze it at all, I struggled to see the purpose of the cartoon. Like, it's animated in like this goofy Adult Swim sort of way, and it plays like it's goofy, but it's often doing like these really deep and serious monologues and having these deep and serious moments, but I don't understand why it was interjected into the show. And it like I said, it's probably due to me just kind of like watching this and chilling, as opposed to like if I knew I had to do a video for it, I'd be like, you know, pausing it and thinking like, okay, what is being said here? What difference does it make? But I didn't watch it that deeply, and it'd probably be clear to me on a second watch, but that's not gonna happen. So if any of you want to feel free to talk about the in-universe cartoon on this show, feel free. Let's make it happen in the comments. Let me know what you thought of it, or how, more importantly, how you feel it tied in to the rest of the show. And not just like, oh, it's featured within the show, but like, what do you think Boots Riley's intention was in having this cartoon within the show? So let's talk about that in the comments. But let's see, where am I? Yeah, by the end of the third episode, like I said, I was pretty into this show, the world that it built, the mission of its characters, and while it ultimately really was kind of a basic story about capitalism, it took something simple but important and found a unique and creative way of talking about it in a world that could, quite frankly, use more creators finding unique and creative ways to talk about important topics. So shout out to Boots Riley for this show. I thought it was really great. I wasn't a huge fan of Sorry to Bother You. If you watch this, Boots Riley, I'm sorry. Low-key, I'm probably going to try to watch it again because this shit was good enough to make me think that might have been user error on not liking Sorry to Bother You. But we'll see. This show, it probably won't make my top 10 of the year, but it will absolutely be an honorable mention when it comes time to talk about the best of 2023. I implore you all to watch it. I thought it was pretty good. It's a quick watch, worth your time, and I will see you guys next time. Till then, peace.